Hey guys, Zane here with another one-take review, and today I wanted to talk about the Johnny Cash live album At Folsom Prison. At Folsom Prison is arguably the defining moment in the entirety of Cash's pre-American recordings era of his career, and depending on who you ask, you could even see some people say that At Folsom Prison is the defining moment of his entire career from beginning to end. Some would even go as far as to claim that At Folsom Prison is the centerpiece of country music as a whole, and while I do think that particular claim is a bit too bold if I'm being totally honest, this record still has reached a sort of mythical status within the realm of country music for a good reason. Cash's actual performance is predictably great as he brings along with him, as you may expect, his deep baritone voice and rambling storyteller style of lyrical delivery that anybody who is even remotely in the know about the Man in Black's music will be totally familiar with. Cash is at the top of his game here, if I'm being totally honest, as his performances ranged from the thick-skinned criminals that he was performing for on this live album to a more sorrowful, reflective figure that almost mirrors his later-day Rick Rubin-assisted products. The couple of appearances that June Carter Cash makes on the track Jackson, as well as the following song Give My Love to Rose, a personal favorite of mine from Cash's discography, towards the second half of the album, are also great as she shares a similar persona and performance style as Johnny Cash himself. Both of the Cashes at Folsom Prison really do take this as an opportunity to deliver some excellent work that, while not necessarily the pinnacle of country music, definitely represents the better side of the genre during the 60s. The song selection here is great, and even some iconic as well as songs like Folsom Prison Blues as well as Cocaine Blues have gone on to become not only Cash fan favorites, but just general country music fan favorites, and some renditions of deeper cuts like Orange Blossom Special are already still very welcome in an epic track list. Some of these songs on At Folsom Prison do begin to sort of blend together a little bit as the upbeat tracks and the sorrowful tracks are kind of split very distinctly. There's kind of a blending between the two different styles. They don't really mingle too much in the context of the record from front to back, but the undeniable rough charisma of Johnny Cash prevents this from dragging down the album whatsoever. The important thing about At Folsom Prison being a live album is that the crowd here is absolutely essential in every way. Now, of course, Johnny Cash was and is not the only person to ever record an album in front of a group of prisoners at a prison. I mean, artists like B.B. King had recorded albums, or I should say, did performances in the hope of getting a live album out of the process in front of prisoners, and a number of other artists have done the same since At Folsom Prison came out. That being said, virtually none of them, besides Cash, had really played in front of an audience as appreciative and even as adoring as those that were locked up in Folsom Prison. I mean, seriously, the excitement in the crowd here is absolutely insane. There's more cheering going on than you would see at most major stadium performances. It's kind of incredible. Cash's willingness to directly acknowledge and even kid around with the crowd is definitely something that helps produce this sort of endearing quality about At Folsom Prison as a listening experience, and perhaps it does help that Johnny Cash himself was only a handful of hit songs and a record deal away from being one of the prisoners in Folsom Prison. I mean, Johnny Cash was an infamously rough around the edges, to say the least, man, and that's been documented in documentaries and books, even in biopics, but the way that he's been about an inch away from an actual prison throughout his lifetime has been astounding, to say the least, especially considering his legendary status that transcends music in general. However, the wildlife of Johnny Cash is something that ultimately benefits At Folsom Prison as a record, as it doesn't feel like a celebrity getting up on stage to perform for a bunch of prisoners. Instead, it feels like one of those prisoners just happened to pick up a guitar and walked up on stage and started playing, as it was his last batch of songs to perform before an inevitable execution that he had accepted. It doesn't help that songs like 25 Minutes Ago directly address that exact topic, so it's kind of pounded into my head, and that's probably kind of why I'm saying that, but at the same time, just the very vibe that Cash gives off and the tone that he uses to address the prisoners is something that just makes him feel so incredibly different from your average celebrity playing for a bunch of inmates. So overall, At Folsom Prison is understandably one of the most mythical, legendary, iconic, insert very positive word that means very, very good but still old album of all time. This is honestly one of the few live records that I don't think most people even care that it's live. I mean, live albums are usually for the die-hard fans, but At Folsom Prison is probably a record that I would list in a 10 essential country albums to hear for someone looking to get into the genre. But then again, a man with rugged charm singing about doing crime and being very heartbroken and singing that in front of a bunch of inmates that cheer him on and then boo authority when they come out at the end of the performance, it kind of personifies old school country as a whole. At Folsom Prison has a sense of brutal honesty about it regarding the sort of viewpoint, the worldview of the inmates, as well as Cash himself. There are excellent performances from Johnny Cash and June Carter Cash, and there's a sense of almost dark humor, either purposefully or at times accidentally, layered throughout the record that ultimately makes At Folsom Prison rightfully remembered as one of the greats of not only live albums, not only country music, but just albums in general, which is why I'm going to give it 4.5 stars out of 5. The way that Cash interacts with the crowd, the way that he performs in such a straightforward and I guess, censored manner, I really enjoy. I just love the fact that Cash is able to be on the same level as the people he's performing with, rather than feeling like some dude that was just invited and then he played for a bunch of prisoners because he wanted to make an album. Nonetheless, behind that sort of dirty charm is a style of professionalism that feels like it's very well thought out, well put together. The song selection's great, and frankly, there's nothing that I could really say is weak about At Folsom Prison. So again, 4.5 stars out of 5. And with that being said, that's the end of this review, and I'll see you guys in the next one.